10. Violence against the pregnant. A football player for the Miami Hurricanes was arrested in 2021 after he beat a pregnant girlfriend. His name is Avonte Williams, and he was arrested in July on a single count of aggravated battery on a pregnant woman. According to the arrest report, officers with the Miami-Dade Police Department arrived at the apartment where Williams was living with his girlfriend. They'd been arguing because even though his girlfriend was pregnant with his child and they lived together, Williams was messing around with another woman. When confronted with his treachery, the football player kicked his pregnant girlfriend out of his apartment instead of owning up to what he did. At least he gave her the courtesy of packing some stuff up before she left. He went out for a bit, hoping that when he got back she would be gone. But when he returned, his girlfriend, now ex-girlfriend, was still packing her items into boxes. He was so mad that he grabbed her by the hair and started throwing her around. He then dragged her outside and threw her on the ground, and that was when the neighbors called the cops. Williams was ranked the top safety in the 2020 class. But after it came to light what he'd done, UM's athletics department dismissed him from the football program. He was also suspended from all team activities. In other words, he can look forward to never being a sports star ever again. 9. Bad volleyball players. 2 women's volleyball players for FAU walked into a fitting room at Macy's retail store in Boca Raton back in 2017. According to the Boca Raton Police Department, when they entered the fitting room, their bags were pretty much empty, but when they walked out, their bags were practically bursting. Emily Hayes and Corinne Varney were arrested by the police for shoplifting. They tried to get away with over $1,400 in women's activewear clothing, along with a few choice pieces of Calvin Klein. They were busted by the asset protection representative at the retail store, who found the 2 young girls incredibly suspicious. They were carrying bags that were too big, they were acting dodgy, and they were clearly stuffing clothes into their bags while in the fitting rooms. The young women were arrested and charged with grand theft, then kicked out of Macy's forever. But all these years later, the horrible mistake of shoplifting hasn't completely ruined their lives. In fact, it actually looks like getting caught helped to push the young women back on the right path. 8. Spitting on the fans. UCLA basketball player Mac Etienne got in some big trouble in early 2022 for allegedly spitting on fans during a game. It's important to note that the fans were from the rival team. It was still a pretty unsportsmanlike thing to do. It happened after his team lost to the University of Arizona at the McKale Center in Tucson. After he lost, as he was returning to the locker room, he started spitting on the fans. Then, once he was in the locker room, the university police officers detained him for assault with the intent to injure, provoke, or insult another person. He was arrested and taken away, though the police never put him in handcuffs. It's a weird situation and one that's still ongoing. As of right now, Mac has pleaded not guilty to what became a misdemeanor assault charge. The case will probably be going on for the better part of the rest of 2022. 7. The 2006 murder of BRYAN. In 2021, an arrest was finally made in the case of BRYAN, the murdered football player for the University of Miami. He was shot to death almost 15 years ago outside his apartment building in 2006. His murder had gone unsolved ever since. But now, police in Miami have finally confirmed that it was Rashawn Jones, BRYAN teammate from between 2004 to 2006, who did the killing. According to the detectives on the case, BRYAN, just 22 years old at the time and an NFL hopeful, was walking from his car to the staircase of his apartment building on November 7th. As he approached the building, he was shot in the back of the head. It was brutal, but at least he didn't feel any pain. There was no suffering or even fear. He was just walking, and then he wasn't alive any longer. After the murder, BRYAN's family was in disarray, especially because they had a pretty strong hunch that Rashawn Jones was responsible. But the police failed to put the evidence together that they needed to make an arrest. It took them a decade and a half to finally build up a case against him. The case basically consisted of phone records, a ping from a cell phone tower placing him at the scene of the homicide, and an eyewitness who identified Jones in a lineup. 6. A homeless man with a knife. Celia Barquin Arozamena was a star college golfer from Spain who met her untimely end while playing around near her campus in Iowa. It happened back in September of 2018. Celia was finishing her degree at Iowa State University and was one of the best golfers in school. She had been working toward joining the Pro Tour and was almost certainly guaranteed a spot. But on Monday morning, when she went to play her round alone, she ran into somebody she'd never expected. A homeless man had wandered onto the golf course with a knife. He stabbed Celia to death and then chucked her body in a pond. Her corpse was only discovered when another player found her abandoned golf bag and followed the trail of carnage. A man named Colin Daniel Richards, just 22, and already known to police for his history of violence, was arrested shortly after and charged with murder. According to investigators, Richards had an urge to kill a woman. That was his only motive. He'd wandered out from his homeless encampment near the golf course until he stumbled upon Celia, who just so happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. 5. Murder at a gas station. A former football player for the University of Georgia has been charged for a brutal shooting death that happened in March of 2021. His name is Akil Nasir Crumpton, and he was the wide receiver for the Bulldogs in 2017 and 2018. But in 2022, he was arrested in Philadelphia for murdering a gas station clerk. Crumpton walked into the gas station dressed entirely in black and holding a handgun. He simply walked to the counter of the racetrack gas station near the outskirts of Watkinsville and shot 23-year-old Elijah Wood to death. It was cold-blooded murder. Sadly, this is a tragic example of a promising career going straight down the toilet. Crumpton had earned himself All-State and All-Catholic honors while playing football at his high school. Then he played in college in California before being transferred over to Georgia. He remained relatively successful until 2021, at which point he dropped out and didn't graduate. After he left school, he became a murderer. We still don't know why he shot Elijah. He didn't even know him. Elijah was working graveyard shift by himself when Crumpton walked up and shot him for no reason. In the security footage, you can see him committing this crime, walking back and forth a few times in the store, and then leaving without taking a single thing. It's been devastating for Elijah's family, especially since it all seemed so pointless. 4. Basketball star turned murderer. Tashawn Hightower was the Tulane College basketball star who turned into a murderer. The 22-year-old was arrested in April of 2020 on a homicide charge. Up until the murder, he'd been leading the Green Wave in scoring and had recently been declared for the NBA draft. But his dreams of stardom were shattered on April 8th when he got involved with a group of people who committed a homicide in Stockbridge, Georgia. The victim was Devontae Anthony Long, dead from gunshot wounds after he was caught in a violent confrontation. According to reports, Tashawn was with a group of 6 men, including his brother, when they confronted Devontae. Devontae had apparently pistol whipped one of Tashawn's friends, and the confrontation erupted in gunfire. It's unclear who exactly pulled the trigger, although Tashawn's lawyer claims it was his brother. Whatever the case, and whoever pulled that trigger, all 6 men were involved in the murder and they're all going down. Hightower was immediately let go from his team and skipped over for the NBA draft. He was just over 1 week away from getting into the NBA, and he blew it to commit a murder. 3. The bizarre story of Nigel Brannon. Austin, PA football player Nigel J. Ron Brannon was arrested on charges of aggravated assault after he slashed another player's neck during a fight over a room key. It happened on July 22nd, 2021. It was about 7 o'clock at night in the University Landing Apartments. The victim and the football player, who happened to be roommates, were looking around for Brannon's key. The key had seemingly got lost, and Brannon wouldn't let his roommate leave until it was found. This turned into a really violent argument, at which point Brannon pulled out a knife. When the man tried to leave the situation, Brannon slashed him across the neck and cut his wrist. Luckily, the victim was able to fight back, push Brannon out of his way and sprint out the door. About 6 minutes later, the victim flagged down a Clarksville police officer and reported what had happened. he required stitches to his neck and had to get the deep laceration on his left wrist sealed. When the police asked Brannon what had happened, he said he was angry because he thought his roommate stole the key to his room. It proved to be a pretty terrible decision for Nigel. He was suspended from the team and things spiraled from there. Shortly after this incident, on November 1st, he was discovered dead in Oklahoma City. According to the police, he was inside a vehicle with a man named Paris Tolver conducting illegal activity. Something went wrong between the two men, and Paris pulled out a gun and shot him. The ex-football player was killed, and Paris was booked on first-degree murder. Even though Nigel Brannon was clearly a troubled individual, this is still a tragic case. He was a rising football star with a promising future, and it all started spiraling down the drain the moment he let his anger get the better of him and picked up that knife. 2. An unwanted butt slap. Cleveland Brown wide receiver Odell Beckham Jr. was issued an arrest warrant by the New Orleans police. It was following a post-game celebration after LSU won the NCAA football championship in 2020. It all started because a complaint came in that Beckham had behaved inappropriately at the celebration. He'd slapped a woman on her behind while inside the LSU locker room at the Mercedes-Benz Superdome. It wasn't just any woman either, it was a police officer. The officer whirled around and confronted Beckham about his inappropriate touching, but he wasn't arrested at the time. She decided later to file a complaint and go through with the arrest. Beckham started at LSU before he was selected by the New York Giants and later traded to the Browns. The arrest warrant fiasco was actually retracted before he got charged with anything. He got away clean, but this should stand as a pretty good lesson not to slap a stranger's behind, even in a locker room. 1. A weapon on campus. A Georgia football player was arrested in November of 2021 on 3 felony charges related to property damage and carrying a weapon in a safety zone. His name is NIGEL Green, and he was the freshman defensive tackle for the Bulldogs. He was in the national top 100 class in the 2021 signing class and had appeared in 3 games up until his arrest. Here's what he did, according to the University of Georgia Police Department report. Security and the university responded to a complaint just after 4 o'clock in the morning on Sunday, November 14th. A man was on campus with a gun, dry firing it in the direction of another man. Dry firing is when someone pulls the trigger but there are no bullets in the weapon. It's not technically firing the weapon, but it's still extremely frowned upon, especially on a school campus. When the university police showed up, they found the football player in possession of a BB gun. It wasn't quite as bad as a real gun, but still a weapon. They also discovered a second BB gun hiding in his dorm room. It was enough that the school officers wished to pursue criminal charges. Then, shortly after, in what appeared to be the result of a fit of rage, the police were called yet again. NIGEL Green had smashed out some windows by shooting them with BB guns. Thanks for watching. Would you rather have your favorite sports star kicked off the team for murder, or witness a member on the team commit a terrible crime and get away with it? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe. See you next time. Bye.